Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle, educator, healer, speaker, guide, and fierce advocate for your yes. I help sensitive and successful men and women find, reclaim, and live from their full embodied yes. Through empowering you to understand your energetic hygiene, establish healthy boundaries, and heal your nervous system, you'll be able to create your yes-filled life and move through your days with more freedom, more ease, and more joy. You'll hear inspiring stories of people who found their full-bodied yes, thought leaders who pursued their own dreams and are living life on their terms, and learn new ways to find the courage, joy, ease, and freedom to more fully step into your yes-filled life. Say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. Join me on this journey to discover your yes-filled life. Whether you're looking to break free from the golden handcuffs, start a new business, find your dream job, or simply live with more intention and mindfulness, I've got you covered. Let's explore the possibilities together and make your dreams a reality. Ready? Let's do this. Let's get you to your yes-filled life. Hello, and welcome back to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. I'm so excited you are here today. My friend Gunjani Patel is here with us on the podcast. You are going to absolutely fall in love with her. She is fun. She is high vibe, high energy. She talks fast and she talks true. You are going to absolutely be blown away by her wisdom and her authenticity. Now, before we dive in, I have a couple things to share. First of all, a heartfelt thanks. Thank you so much for your ratings, your reviews, for sharing the podcast. I am blown away by the podcast growth over the past 2 months. In 2 months, you have doubled the number of downloads that this podcast had. It's just absolutely mind blowing. And I can't thank you enough for your support, for listening, for sharing, rating, and reviewing the podcast, because I know that there are so many people who need what this podcast offers, which is really the belief that you can all have a yes-filled life. Now, one of the things about having a yes-filled life is being willing to give yourself permission to actually admit you want the things you want. And I know that that can be really challenging. I remember a time in my life when wanting what I wanted was something that I almost felt like was a dirty secret. Like, seriously, I kept it hidden and I didn't want to admit that I wanted more because I felt ashamed. And so if you feel that way, know that you're not alone. And if you've already worked through that and you're already into believing that you deserve everything you want, beautiful. In either case, I invite you to come join me in a new offering, a new moon ceremony with breathwork. There is one on December 12th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. And there's one on January 11th, 2024. January 11th, in other words, 111. Talk about beautiful manifesting energy. I just don't know if it can get any better than that. So I would love to invite you to come join me for those new moon ceremonies with breath work. You can learn more and find whatever the current offer is by going to brendawinkle.com/new moon, all lowercase, all one word. Now, before we dive into the conversation with my friend Gunjani, who I affectionately call Gunj, I want you to meet her, to know just a little bit about her. Gunjani Patel is a distinguished trauma-informed transformation, breathwork, and holistic anxiety coach and an award-winning speaker. With over 15 years of experience as a licensed mental health therapist and EMDR specialist, she empowers successful women leaders who experience high-functioning anxiety and stress. Her guidance helps them navigate uncertainty and change with ease and confidence. Informed by her personal journey of navigating anxiety, depression, PTSD, and highly sensitive and dysregulated nervous systems, instilling her with profound empathy and insight. Gunjani has assisted thousands of clients in resetting their nervous systems using her Unleash and Embody Your Peace, Power, and Potential frameworks. This approach is what she used to overcome her own postpartum anxiety and trauma. By gaining self and emotional mastery using this method, her clients have not only improved their relationship with themselves, but also transformed the relationships around them. Gunjani is the CEO and founder of Consciously Living and holds multiple certifications in trauma informed modalities and subconscious reprogramming techniques, including EMDR, hypnosis, NLP, EFT, and Reiki healing, among other credentials behind her name. Her mission is to empower millions of high achieving female leaders to ascend to their highest potential and embody limitless abundance. In doing so, they can awaken to a life filled with ease, confidence, and freedom. I cannot wait for you to meet my friend, Gunj. Hi, Gunj.
Hello, Brenda. How are you? I'm so
I'm
excited to
great.
be here with you.
Oh, I'm so excited you're here. This has been a long time coming.
100%. I was looking forward to this because this actually helped me get some of my act together in terms of setting up some of my business foundations. So I was like, yes, this is me showing up with self-responsibility on Brenda's podcast and doing what I need to do. So thank you. It is truly an honor to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad you're here. For
Yes.
our listeners who maybe haven't had a chance to know you yet, can you tell us a little bit about the work you do and a bit about your background?
So I am, hello, I am Gunjani, and I am a holistic anxiety coach, trauma-informed breathwork practitioner, and I lean on 15 years of my experience as a licensed mental health therapist. And my specialty is anxiety, depression, trauma, grief, PTSD, addiction, ADHD, and lots of disorders, addictions, and lots of grief. So I've loved doing what I did. And in 2020, my story kind of pivoted a little bit because I went through my own postpartum anxiety. Like I had my toddler for 2 years. It was just like I grew up in a culture where I saw my mom just literally pour all of her into us and made us
Mhm,
our universe,
mhm,
which was great as a receiving end of that. But as an adult, it led into codependency and all the things that I experienced in postpartum because I made Avik my entire universe and totally forgot about me. Avik is my son.
mhm,
And that led to a lot of things. And then after 2 years, when I woke up, I'm like, wait a second. I literally shut myself off of social media. I went through like 5 big major changes. So I had met my husband recently in that time. So I met my husband. I moved from California to Florida, or Florida to California. Then next year we got married. Then the following year we brought my mother-in-law who was in Tanzania and has MS, so she had disability from Tanzania to US. And then the next year I had my son. So it literally like 5 M&Ms, non-sweet. So like moving, marriage, motherhood, MIL, and just all kinds of things happen. And it was so many changes all at once, and it was a lot. Even though that was something that I wanted, it
mhm.
was just a lot to sort of navigate all of that. So now
So
I help and empower women to embrace change and uncertainty with ease and grace because I'm like, wow, that was a lot.
that is so impactful. And there's a couple threads I want to just pull on.
Yes,
One
please.
is that all these things were positive
Yeah.
and yet they caused stress.
Yes.
Can you
Yes.
say more about that? Because I think that sometimes we don't talk about the positive things in our lives that
Yeah.
are changes that actually really are stressful.
Yeah. So I also identify as someone with sensitive nervous system and, as an empath. I didn't know all of this 3 years ago till I really started doing a lot of personal and spiritual development. And that's one of the reasons why I now love supporting women going through changes because it's like what changes, and I'm going to get a little neuroscience nerd on us
Oh, please.
in a
Yeah, bring it.
second.
Let's do all the nerd stuff.
I love that. What happens? It's like we're used to certain patterns that are familiar to us, right? In life, and we keep doing the same things over and over. And then when we go through change, it's like to me, I truly believe that every thought is a neural connection. Every feeling is a new neural pathway and a connection. So when we're going through changes, even though it was a change that I really wanted and sort of manifested, it was a lot of change all at once because I was coming in with my old patterns and my behaviors, and all of the things around me were so new. So my nervous system, which is my right brain, which is our emotions, intuition, the reptilian 2 million years ago brain, that really finds all of that very tethering to my nervous system. It perceived it as danger. So I was literally in those first 2 years of Avik's life, I was operating in complete numb or dissociate mode or absolute overwhelm. So my window of tolerance in terms of my nervous system being capable of handling the things that were happening day to day and how we were moving, like we had moved also. So it's like 5 minutes, so many things all at once, just threw my routine off, through what I was used to. It just was perceived as major danger by my nervous system.
So without the familiarity, when
Yeah,
we have the new and we're
yeah,
laying down new neural pathways, new routines,
yeah,
if there's too much newness
yeah,
or if we
yeah,
have other stressors going on, our
yeah.
systems can perceive that as threat.
100%. Because the right brain, there's a part in our right brain called amygdala, which is literally, it's like the autonomic nervous system in terms of nervous system. So it's like the stress response is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic is the relaxation response, right? So the amygdala's function, basic function, is like a tiny little organ in our brain. I mean, tiny little part in our brain, and it literally perceives. And then there's an organ right next to it called hippocampus, which literally, it's like if you perceive new in terms of senses, right? So it's like I had moved to California, but had given up a lot of my entire group practice, my entire life, my entire routine, my friends, my house,
Mhm.
all the things. And
Mhm.
then coming to California, having no license, so I couldn't work for a whole year. And it was a lot. So even though I wanted that, my amygdala perceived that as, based on checking with the memory and my database and all the things from the past, was me not working and doing anything. Just, I don't like that. I feel like absolute crap. I literally was like going through so much grief. And at that point, like I was also going through financial stressors because of such a big move. So I was like, I don't know if I have money for, to get help and all of those stories. And it's like, technically, if I really wanted to get help, I could have gotten help, but I self-sabotage myself in
Mm,
terms
mhm.
of, danger. So I don't know if I should. So all the stories, all the self-sabotaging patterns kept coming up in the face of danger. It's like all my inner child
Yeah.
parts had to be attended.
So you mentioned that your toddler,
Yeah,
and I know Avik is now 5,
yeah,
but
yeah,
when this all happened, he
yeah.
was a toddler. And
Me
so
too.
I want to kind of dive into this a little bit because I
Yeah,
think that there's
yeah,
a conception
yeah.
that maybe postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety can only happen immediately after the birth of the child.
Yeah.
And that's not actually true.
So partially, like it is and it is not. So it is because it's like postpartum blues lies. I also volunteer with Postpartum International Support, and they're such an amazing organization, and I love them. But according to just studies and stuff, it's like your postpartum blues last till 6 months, and then postpartum anxiety can last till, it starts in within the 6 months, and it can last as long as it's almost treated. Because sometimes the risk of having anxiety in your nervous system, because as you know, and as a lot of work you do, all this stuff is stuck in our system. So if we haven't done deeper inner dives, then for me, I finally realized that this was postpartum anxiety was because I was triggered when he turned 2, and we were having all these toddler power struggle symptoms. And then I was like, this is not normal. The fact that I'm reacting so much to his stuff, this
What were
the
some of the things that you were experiencing that
yeah, so
that
I
you
was,
know?
when we were having major power struggles, I had so much anger in my system. I was reacting, not my proudest mom moment, but I really got to a point where I'm like, if I snap at him so much, then I really am going to traumatize him and tether his nervous system, because we know how first 5 years are so important to life and subconscious programming, right? And I was like, okay, if I'm reacting, my husband and I were very disconnected. We obviously have worked on a lot of our stuff. So we now are in a very good place. But in that time, we were literally like roommates, and we were like when we had moved to a new place. So we almost never saw each other because he used to go so early and come so late. And then I would be so tired and exhausted. So we had a lot of changes going on in our life. And as a result, I was just so tired all the time. For me, sleep is like absolute important. I was breastfeeding, so for the first year of his life, so in the first 2 years, not so much, but I couldn't get sleep and I just felt so exhausted all the time. And I just remember a very pivotal moment when I dropped him off to school at 2 years old. I literally came back and I had switched myself off of all my social support, off of all, like I didn't, I almost like I cut myself off because I was like, all of my friends are doing great. And there was all this comparisonitis. And I'm like, I'm the only one feeling this way. So I don't have time for people and all the things. So I really cut off my social support and I cut off myself from social media and all the things. And as a result, I found myself very isolated. And then I finally got back on one day. And after I dropped him off, I didn't even know what Instagram was back then, like 3 years ago. I was like, what is Instagram? I used to be on Facebook and I was literally scrolling and I realized a friend of mine's, she had died by suicide due to postpartum depression. And I was
Mm.
just like, oh my God, that could have been me. Like that could be just me at this point. This is what it is because I was so deep in my blind spot that I didn't even realize that I was going through my postpartum anxiety or untreated
Well, and
that
I think isn't
finally
that
woke me up.
do you think that's pretty common that sometimes we actually have a blind spot around depression or anxiety and we think that
100%.
we're just
And
like,
for me, it was like, I'm the therapist, so I should know how to treat this, like cognitively. And now, all doing all this deeper work, I'm like, mentally is not enough. You have to treat your energy body, you have to treat your emotional body, you have to treat this from your body. And I didn't do any of that. And I was literally praying that, there has to be a better way. I started to get back on social media and I was like, there has to be a tool because I'm an EMDR practitioner, which was deep trauma work, deep subconscious work. I'm
mhm.
also a hypnotherapist. So it's like, I know all this deep, how beautiful that can be. But in that period of time, I almost forgot that YouTube exists, that I could have all these guided experiences then.
Oh,
But it just, I was blind, like I was
it's day to
asleep
day,
through that.
right? You just
Yeah.
do the day to day. I
Yeah.
didn't know that I had postpartum depression until my daughter was, like a teenager. And then
Yeah.
looking back, I realized that
If it's
there's big
untreated, it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
there's big
there.
chunks I don't
Yeah,
remember. I
yeah,
struggled with friendships at the time and didn't
yeah.
realize that was connected, and I think, when you said you shut yourself off from social, I
Yeah.
think that there's this idea that sometimes we island ourselves.
And
We,
I
like
also, for me, it was very triggering because I would see all these picture perfect Pinterest moms, and I didn't like my body then. I didn't like, who I was in that period. And I was just like, everybody is so perfect and handling motherhood so well. And here I am, not even able to, do half the things that I normally end up doing. Like, I don't have friends. I'm not full time at work. And that was my choice that I wanted to be there for the first few years of his life. But yet, now I have wisdom in 3 years of doing all this deep work. But then I was like, I don't have the friends or I can't go out or we didn't have support. So it's like we had nanny when I would go to work, but we didn't have in-laws or we didn't have family that we can just drop them off and do stuff. We
Mhm.
didn't connect as a couple or go on dates or do date nights. We didn't do a lot of things that now I've put in place because I was like, this has to be treated. I can't be this own island by myself because I'm causing myself so much grief being in this process.
Mhm. And the other thing that I'm hearing is that you got support and you also reconnected with relationships.
100%. When I started healing, I started with this program that entailed, looking at all 12 categories of your life. So I was like, okay, let me start there. What are my subconscious beliefs? What is my vision in that category of my life? And what are the action steps I'm going to take? So I started very slow, baby steps. Like I want to look at my emotional health. I want to look at my romantic life. I want to look at my parenting. I want to look at my physical health. I want to look at my aging. I want to look at my business and my finances. I want to look at community and friends. I want to look at hobbies. So all these different 12 areas of life. And I really started literally chipping away at each and every area in the 6 to 9 months that I was working the program. And I was like, okay, you know what? Slowly, I want to live a life that is balanced in all areas, like, the wheel of life thing, and
Mhm.
not just, oh, one area I'm thriving and all the other areas are struggling. I want to age well. And then I also turned 40 around that time. So I was like, I've been through so much stuff. I've not been one of those people who's been eating bonbons at the pool, like I've had a very difficult life in every different decade of every decade. So I promised myself and made an intention that my 40s is going to be the best decade ever. And and I'm about to turn 44 on Christmas. So I am actually having the best decade ever so far.
Yeah, I love that. So I can imagine that this inner work that you've done has really impacted how you work with clients.
100%. Now I look at it holistically as opposed to let's just treat your mental and emotional health. But now it's all about let's not just treat the root cause of the issues, but also let's set you up for the best life that you are possibly capable of creating. So my zone of genius was always post-traumatic growth with my clients because I've always been lucky to, like, even when I had my own therapist in my late 20s when I went through a major divorce and I graduated as a therapist. My program required that, you have to go to therapy because you need to know what it feels like to be on a couch. And I'm like, I don't need therapy. In the meantime, I had untreated depression, anxiety, trauma, all the things, ADHD, and I was like falling apart. But yet I was like, I don't need therapy because I grew up in a culture where we didn't talk about mental health or emotional health. And when I sought therapy, my therapist was just, we did past life regression, we did all this energy work, we did EMDR, we did just amazing, like 2 years, amazing work. And that really helped me heal so, so much. So then I decided to pay that forward when I was done with that, because she would always tell me, she's like, Gunjani, you're such a strong, magnificent being. And nothing about me saw it at the time because I was like, is she on crack? And she used to treat she used to treat addiction. So I used to think that. But then when I left her office, that's how I felt. And I made a promise to myself that that's how I would extend it to my clients. So not just, yes, let's treat your trauma, but then let's also help you manifest and create a life that you desire based on your beliefs, your new beliefs now, your how you want. And now with breathwork, so when breathwork came into my life, I was literally looking for a tool that was equally, if not better, effective as EMDR, like I was used to. And I used to try it with my patients, and I tried it on myself, and it is simply so life changing. So I was like,
Yeah,
oh my God,
totally.
yes.
Totally.
So yes.
My signature offer, Yes Academy, a 12-month mastermind and healing program for world changers with a huge mission on their heart, is now enrolling. This 12-month mastermind and healing program is a potent transformational container for you if you know you're meant for more. If you know the world needs your message, your medicine, and your contribution. If you're tired of being the lone wolf and you're ready for a community of like minded seekers. If you want to finally feel better. If you believe a rising tide lifts all boats and that in community, we all rise together. And Yes Academy is for you, even if you haven't always felt safe to be vulnerable in a community of women. It's for you if you are done with the hustle and grind and you are ready to find more ease and flow. It's for you if you're willing to learn a new way to live that puts the feeling good at the center of everything. It's for you if you've been taught to play small, to stay silent, to not take up too much space. You've been taught that someone outside of you knows more than you, and you know none of that is true, and you're ready to make big shifts, quantum leaps. You're ready to manifest the life of your dreams. You're highly self responsible and you're ready to get out of your stories and into the life you know you're meant to be living. Align with your soul's mission. Learn to say yes to the curriculum of your soul and find your way back to your soul's mission. My client Tiara says, I joined Yes Academy because I had attended many of Brenda's free classes and I loved them all. I wanted more of what she was teaching. Since I've joined, many positive things have happened in my life. I have more time to do the things I want to do. I have learned how to say no and how to protect my energy. I've also attended her Reiki training and am moving forward with starting a Reiki practice. My favorite part of Yes Academy is the friendships I've found with like minded people. I love the connections that I've formed with others in the group. And I'm most looking forward to the upcoming classes learning all about oracle cards and crystals and the retreat that will be in April of 2024. If you are wanting to connect with like minded women, healing yourself with breathwork, and learning new things about yourself, you should absolutely join. It's a life changing experience. Oh, thank you, Tiara. I absolutely am in awe and admiration and love you so much. You can learn more by going to brendawinkle.com/yes dash academy dash course. So you talked about post
Growth.
traumatic growth
Yeah.
and I'm fascinated by that because I just learned about this in the last 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
and I'm fascinated. Talk to us
Right?
about what
Yeah.
is post-traumatic growth, and
Yeah.
for those people that are feeling like perhaps they endured some kind of a trauma during COVID,
Yeah.
how can they use this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I truly believe, and just because I'm such a neuroscience nerd and into nervous system, I truly believe that we can reset and rewire our nervous system. So no matter what kind of trauma we have been through, and I also believe that the faster we get help after the trauma, the better we set ourselves up for post-traumatic growth, because then we don't keep building the neural cycles and paths based on the trauma that we've endured. So if we get help fast, and subconscious help, not talk therapy, because talk therapy sometimes is almost traumatizing to people because they
Okay,
don't
wait,
like.
pause right there. You just said something that is so profound. I want people to really hear that. Say that one more time.
So I truly believe that talk therapy, sometimes we call talk therapy like a top down approach. So top is your
Mhm,
left brain. Your left
mhm,
brain is your thinking brain, your logical mind, your analytical mind, your conscious brain, which is here right now, your
mhm,
language and narrative and story making mind. Your right brain is, like I explained earlier, this emotions and the feelings and the judgment, intuition, and the inspiration part of our brain. Well, when we do the top down approach, so talking or meditation and those kind of approaches, they're good, they're helpful in raising awareness. But sometimes, if your nervous system is very tethered, or if it's in the sympathetic fight or flight or freeze mode, and you make someone talk about their trauma. So let's say I have endured sexual trauma, right? And I've at this point obviously treated it to the nth degree. And most of the people at some point in my practice come somehow, I end up with clients who have experienced that and help them heal it and help them go through post-traumatic growth. But if you make, like, let's say if someone has experienced, and trigger warning for some people, if you've experienced hardcore heavy duty trauma and you make them talk about it, and if they don't have the emotional intelligence tools or energetic tools to know what is happening for them, then talking about certain things, your brain and your body thinks it is happening right now in this moment, and it
mhm,
re-traumatizes you
mhm,
again over and over. And especially so when we keep talking about the same things, we throw our nervous system in a sympathetic mode, and then we keep it there. And when we do that, the top down approach re-traumatizes the nervous system, because we are trying to heal. It's like putting salt on a wound. We are trying to heal, the nervous system is finally regulating, and then we talk
mhm.
about something that was very sympathetic, threatening, stressful to our nervous system. And when we do that, we re-traumatize ourselves and our nervous
Yep.
system.
Exactly. I love that you say this as somebody who's trained as a therapist, that
Mhm.
you're naming this and saying this because, um, I've been doing trauma informed work for
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
15 years at this
yeah,
point,
yeah,
and there are not many therapists who are doing the trauma work. And
yeah,
so when we find somebody who's doing the trauma work and understands this, oh my
yeah,
goodness,
yeah.
it's a game changer because
That
to your
exactly.
point, if we re-traumatize, what that means is you're not healing,
Yeah.
you're re-hurting, and to
Yes.
use real
Yes.
real simple terms. Okay, so
100%.
I interrupted you. You were
No, no.
saying top-down approach.
So top-down approach is helpful later. So let's say once we have helped your nervous system stabilize. So bottom-down approaches are breath work, a lot of somatic work, a lot of nervous system regulation work. So all of
Mhm,
those
mhm,
approaches, bottom-up approaches, are very useful because you're meeting the person where their nervous system is, not where their mind wants to be. Yes, I want to be a millionaire all day long, but I'm not here today yet. So my right brain has to completely fathom the concept, be the concept, feel the concept, till I come to the fully awareness and start creating stories around it. So when you've experienced trauma, your right brain and your nervous system, your relaxation part of your system, has to be met first, has to be felt safe first, before you tell me the entire experience. I normally, when I do EMDR work and when I do assessment with people, I don't even like, I always give them permissioning that, if talking about a memory causes you distress any more than, on the scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the highest level of pain you've ever felt, 0 being none, if it causes you any level of distress at a more than 6, don't talk to me about it. Let's heal it first. I want to know the details. I see you, I hear you. I absolutely want to know all the details, but I don't want to hurt you and don't want to hurt your nervous system by you having to go through explaining everything to me when
Mhm.
your nervous
Mhm.
system might not be okay with it. You know,
Right. And so
sometimes we
symptoms
forget
of a
things
nervous
for a reason.
system. I'm sorry, what?
I said sometimes we forget things for a reason, you know.
Right.
Some things that are very painful we forget, and that's our
Mhm.
body's response of keeping us safe and protected.
Absolutely. And I was just gonna say, if somebody's thinking, "Well, how do I know
Yeah.
if my nervous system is being triggered? How do I know?" So I always think about like the clench. Like if you're in a massage
Yeah.
and you are having to grip and brace to get through the pressure, that's an example of re-traumatizing. Like that is not actually therapeutic at that point.
Right. Like I am not meant for deep Swedish massage. Like that just tickling massage is my jam. Like don't sit here and need me because that just does my system does not like that. It is too sensitive. I don't care for it. It's too painful. I'm like massage is supposed to be just this nice nourishing experience. Yes, like there are certain things that certain places where I carry stress has to be needed, but not the whole thing for a whole hour, you know? So yes, I
Right.
agree. Like when something feels, and now I'm so into body work where I was like, if something doesn't feel good and nourishing, like yes, I'm all for hormonic stress, which is, you know, stress that we have control over. So like, okay, cold showers, that is my choice and I want to do it, so I will do it. Or cold plunges for people whose nervous system is stressed, you can't do cold plunges in the beginning. Yes,
No.
you want to start outside your comfort zone, but you can't do it. For certain people whose nervous systems are very tethered, meditation doesn't work. It's very tethering, which is again a top-down approach. So there are certain things that just doesn't feel good to your body. And when you make yourself, it's like you have to ask yourself, like if you're first of all not used to feeling in your body, when people are like, how do I know if I'm stressed or not, right? So it's like asking yourself on the scale, just generally on the scale of 0 to 10, if this was a high, when talking about it, like if you, most people are not traumatized by going to a grocery store. So it's like when you go to a grocery store, it's a neutral, calm experience, right? Like I just went to a grocery store. I don't even remember that. So it's like if certain things, when you talk about it and you find yourself passionate or excited or triggered or just distressed about it, more than six. So I have this chart that I have like tolerable, and then at 7, it's unbearable. And then at 10, it's like highest level of distress. So it's like if it's tolerable, yes, you know what, you can still work on it and bring it to completely a 0 level of distress. But if it's above tolerable, then that's triggering to your nervous system because you're putting it in complete, we are in danger right now mode.
Mhm. This is so big because sometimes we tell ourselves, our culture tells us that we need to muscle through, that
Right,
we need to feel the pain. And I do want to just say it is important to feel the emotions.
right,
We're not saying don't feel the emotions. We're saying do it to the point you can tolerate.
right. Like, you know, I'm all about leaning into pain, but I'm not about, I'm all about doing the hard things, you know, fear over, like courage over fear. I get that. But not to a place where you are literally going to be so distressed that it takes you days or hours or weeks to get over the experience,
Right.
you know?
You shouldn't have to recover from your therapy session.
Like, and then there are some times that people like, you know, when I've experienced this on my own too. Like I've come out of EMDR experiences, and I literally felt so exhausted, as if like I got hit by a train, and I would sleep at like 2 o'clock after my therapy session and wake up the next day. But I was holding on to so much, so it's almost like my system was in the trauma world. We say if you haven't experienced safety or love in your body or
Mhm.
whatever you
Mhm.
basic feelings growing up in your early childhood, it's very hard to feel safe as an adult. And when your
Mhm.
system starts to feel that, it is exhausted, it is very new, it takes time to come out of that experience, as in you have to integrate that experience because to your body that feels unsafe and unfamiliar.
Right. And then you've also shifted the hormones in your body as you
Yes,
start to release and relax, and you
yes,
don't have the same levels of cortisol and adrenaline. And if you're used
100%.
to a really high level of cortisol or adrenaline in your
Yes,
body, and then that level dips a little bit, it can make you feel really tired as you get used to
yes,
what is
yes,
actually a
yeah.
normal level.
Right, right. 100%. I have to agree. So it's like, sometimes, yes, your after therapy sessions are hard, but you have to ask yourself, is it hard because I checked in on myself? Or, like because I talked about it and I'm like completely numb? Or is it hard because I'm reintegrating from this experience of healing and my body is just taking time to readjust to my new baseline?
Yes. I love that. And there's
Yeah,
a big difference. And I think we know it.
huge.
We
Yeah,
intuitively know,
yeah,
like, oh,
100%.
I've gone too far on this
Right.
one, or,
Because even after my therapy sessions, I will tell people, it's like take time. Like after therapy is very, 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 very important, where you have to take time to take Epsom salt baths, just walk, journal. Don't get into okay, I have to start doing, doing, doing. Like don't schedule therapy with me when you have a big meeting or a big task, when we have to do big processing of things, because your body will need rest. Your body will take time to adjust. You might experience such and such and such. So we give people all this resourcing and stabilizing tools for vagus nerve and breathing techniques and tools and all this other resourcing, because it's like you're going to need that when you're recovering, because your
Mhm.
body is like, okay, if I need rest, and we're like, no, I should be doing stuff, da, 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 then you're not giving your body time to rewire and readjust. Like in when we do these deep bottom up approaches there, and I can speak about EMDR because I haven't seen fMRIs after, but they've noticed people who have had PTSD, and they do fMRIs before and after, and they literally notice that the hippocampus, which is like the memory center of the brain in the right brain, it is also one of the centers that has the highest cortisol receptors, and that's why it's like a lot of times we don't remember things, because that center atrophies, it becomes smaller, so we don't remember things for a
Mhm.
reason, because it was so hard on our system, and we were like literally firing all this stress hormone. And we after the treatment, it's like your hippocampus comes back to normal, your memory starts coming back, you're literally rewiring so much of your right brain that you were just like, what, I didn't even know all this was happening.
It's amazing. I love
Yeah,
that. So I had an experience this week, like literally this week,
yeah,
that I thought I was managing stress really well. I thought
yeah.
I was doing okay. And then I made a massive mistake. Like
Oh,
unexplainable, huge, massive mistake.
ah.
And I sort of the first thing that happened was
Mhm,
I was like, how could this happen?
mhm,
How could I have made this big a mistake? And so
mhm,
I went into the emotionality around how could this happen, processed through that in a feeler with one of the ladies in our mastermind.
mhm,
And then I realized, oh, I'm I'm not accounting for the stress that
yeah,
my body's under because of some things that are happening in my family right now. I'm
mhm,
not giving it time. And I
yeah,
wasn't looking at the symptoms that
yeah,
were very evident, but I
yeah,
was kind of like, oh, it's just this
right.
thing. It's
We
just
mentally
this week.
walk ourselves out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I had this huge mistake, it was like, okay, come back to center.
Mm,
We're not listening anymore. We're not listening to the body. We're not listening
mm.
to that knowing that it's too much.
Yes, yes, that 100%. Like, through all this deep healing work, that's when I'm like starting to realize how much our body speaks to us and
Mhm.
how much we override it with our mind and our ego and our
Mhm.
patterning, you
Yeah.
know? And it's just, I was watching something the other day, and it was just like, you know, things happen in our life, and when we are triggered, it's like don't waste the triggers, because triggers are our experiences of whatever inner child part of us that is still stuck, that energy that is dense, that is stuck in
Mhm.
our
Mhm.
consciousness. It's surfacing because it's bringing up and giving us data that I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel upset, I feel so shameful, I feel so whatever it is that we are experiencing in terms of emotions. as in not just process the emotions, but really extracting the wisdom and integrating our inner child parts, as in it's okay, no big deal, all good. Because the
Yeah.
basic emotional needs that we have as adults is comfort, love, safety, soothing, belonging, connection, appreciation, and just basic needs, validation. But we override it by, come on, do this, get over this, da 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 da. And it's like we when we find compassion for ourselves, when we find the rest, when we truly listen to our body, the wisdom is within us. We know deeply what it needs, and how to work through this. But
Mhm,
how to
mhm.
work through this, I think it's a skill that we can learn. So I take that back.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
the feedback loop gets shorter.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm much more
100%.
aware, and so
I used to
it
take months or years sometimes to get through things.
yeah,
uh,
or it would
yeah.
take me, an entire month to think, "Oh, I'm responding to stress,"
Right,
instead of one incident.
right,
And so if you're a listener and you're thinking, "What are you even talking about? You made one mistake, I blacked out the last week." There's so
right.
much love for that, because I think Gunj and I would both say, "We've been there. We've
Oh,
been there." So as you begin to unpeel the layers of your anxiety and heal in your nervous system, heal in your body, what do you think were like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 things that you made non-negotiable for your healing?
oh my gosh. Wow. My morning, like I think micro habits. So it's like now, one of the things that I do is, first is like intentional living, where my brand is called consciously living. It's like I cannot be asleep anymore. When I'm asleep, I get to wake up. It's so cool because it's like my brand is consciously living, healing, creating, and awakening. But it's like, in terms of my healing, first is like conscious. What is the intention I'm setting for the day? What is the intention? Like, I know you, for this podcast, you had asked us to come up with an intention, and my intention was to teach people that it was, there's these, like, when you press certain fingers in your hand, it's called mudras
Mhm,
in Vedic Hindu realm. And it's like, or yoga or yogic realm, and basically it's like they touch certain energy points in our body. And what I wanted to teach people, and I live by it, because I'm like, I've been one of those people who is like high achieving with high functioning anxiety and tethered nervous system, to now living a life that I am creating. Yes, not all days are just amazing and great, but I don't want that to be like that, because then it'll stop my growth. Then
mhm.
it's like I truly am now in a place where I'm like, after every major constriction, there's a major expansion. So I'm like,
Yeah.
intentional, then I know the life I'm creating and how I'm showing up to, and what my brain finds for me. So, like, according to the mudras, it's like just remembering that I am powerfully peaceful.
So can you lead us through and then describe for the listeners who aren't watching you
Yeah.
what we're doing?
So
We're
what we're doing is, you're taking your hand, your thumb, and you're pressing your index finger. That stands for I. Then you're leaving it, and you breathe in safety and love when you say I, and you exhale what is present in your body. Then the second finger is am, because I truly believe that I am are direct commands to your subconscious. Where when you say I am something, it's
Mhm,
like, I am peaceful, I am loved, I am whatever I am, right? And so when you press your second finger, you say am, then you release it. Then you press your third finger. And this will be really useful for you guys when you go through holidays, because holidays can really bring up a lot of major things. So
yeah.
I want you to do this under the table if you can. So the third, your people are not going to know. When you're at dinner and you want to just reach across the table, you just keep doing this in your head. So the third thing, the third finger, and pressing your thumb, and you say powerfully, because we
Mhm,
can only control our emotions, our stories, our perception of the events. We can only control us, nobody else outside of us. And then the tiny finger on the thumb says peaceful. So I am powerfully peaceful. And you can just do it with one hand too, it doesn't matter. But basically, you program your brain to, I am powerfully peaceful all the time when I want to.
I
Again,
love that. Will you
remember.
lead us through just a little experience? And so
Yeah,
you're gonna start with your index finger on the thumb, then your middle finger, then your ring
And
finger, then your pinky.
I learned this from Gabby Bernstein, by the way. And
Oh,
she
I love her.
mantra, but I love her. And I'm like, oh, this is fun. But I don't
This
remember what mantra she uses. But for me, it was very significant because I'm like, I am powerfully peaceful.
That's
It's
beautiful.
literally
So if
breathe
you're driving, don't
that.
do this while you're
Don't do this
driving.
while you're driving. No
Just wait.
driving, heavy machinery, swimming, none of that. Don't do that.
Taking a bath, none of
Uh,
that.
Taking a bath, you can because you're just sitting there putting your hands and rubbing your fingers on your hand, and that's totally fine. But when you are swimming, no, I want you to focus on very important tasks at hand. But basically, it's just a reminder when you keep doing that, and when you keep saying that, it's like every thought is a neural connection, right? And I want you to
Mm-hmm.
breathe in
Mm-hmm.
safety in your body and breathe in love. And I want you to just notice and observe, notice any dense or tense area in your body without trying to create stories, without trying to make meaning, without trying to figure anything out. Just keep pressing your hands and breathe in safety and love to that part of your body. Give that part of your body or those sensations a shape, color, size, form. And people are like, what is shape, color, size, form? So, whatever that denseness is, notice what color it is. Or maybe for you, it is a shape. Or maybe for you, it is a form. Maybe it feels a certain temperature. Whatever that feels like, you just keep breathing in and keep exhaling it. And just keep saying with every breath in, I am powerfully peaceful. And sometimes you might not believe that based on where you are and your in your journey. Sometimes it's hard for us to believe that. So I truly believe that like I'm very big. I have this map of consciousness, and what I notice is when we feel lower, dense, tense emotions, you can't just jump from completely negative to completely positive because that's
Mm-hmm.
hard. So
Right.
you landed neutral first. So you say things like, even though I'm teaching you I am powerfully peaceful, I want you to start saying things like, I am willing to be powerfully peaceful. I am
Mm-hmm.
open to feeling powerfully peaceful. I'm learning to be powerfully peaceful. Because if you say that long enough, then when you get to that place, you're like, oh, I'm powerfully peaceful one day. But if you don't, and that's why I'm asking you to breathe with it, because I want you to feel what peaceful feels like and not just know what peaceful, what peace is. So it's like breathe in safety and peace, and I am powerfully peaceful. So going back
Mm.
to your questions, there are all these micro habits that I use. Like there's other techniques that I teach my clients that I use for myself too, in terms of tapping and all these things that I do. But to me, it's like I have to start my day with gratitude. I have to start my day meditating. I end my day with meditation. I plug like 10-minute meditation or breath work during my day, because the more I mind my energy, the better I show up for myself and the people around me.
100%. Me too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Because
gift to myself is actually a gift to everyone else.
100%, because you do not want to be around me when I'm not going good. And I tell my husband, now I have the skills to know that, you know what, it's, I'm in my fall. So literally right before my period, I tend to just really get wild sometimes. And I have to tell him that, you know what, my hormones are really acting such and such. So if I'm reacting, like I don't want to be bothered, or if I'm not talking with you, then please know that I'm just inward and I am just in that shutdown mode right now because I need that, and please give me support with Avik or whatever. So when I am taking care of myself, I show up so much better for my family, for my clients, for my, friends, everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
and I've finally gotten to a place where I am like an ex people pleaser. So I'm like, I'm going to set boundaries and say, I'll be back.
I'll
I
be
will
back.
be.
I love that, an ex people pleaser. I always say a recovering people pleaser, but I like ex people pleaser.
Because I really like, to just recover. I'm a recovering perfectionist because that's still the worthiness still crunch still shows up sometimes. But, and sometimes I really notice, like in terms of people pleaser, it's like at this point, no, like my husband actually really taught me that. It's like, don't do what doesn't feel good to your soul because
Mm,
somebody else told you, because somebody else asked you to do, or because they might feel such and such way, or they might not be comfortable. No, don't do what doesn't feel good to your soul.
I love that. What is your soul's mission?
Hmm. My soul's mission is to empower high achieving women and or just leaders and sensitive leaders to live their full potential and liberate themselves by just doing all this inner work, so that we can show up to life that feels free, that feels full of love, and that feels very conscious, and not just
I love that.
I'm
Oh,
just
that's
showing
good.
up to life. I am creating my life full
Yeah, I love that. Well, before I ask you my final question, I want to make sure that people know where they can find you. How can people connect?
I brought a gift for your community.
Yes, please
So
tell
if
us.
you go on consciouslyliving.co/regulate, it literally is a gift that I created. It's like a three-part training with an audio guided meditation. It's called Breathing Your Way to Emotional Freedom and Elevating Yourself to Your Full Potential. And basically, it's like a three-part training that I created to teach people emotional intelligence, emotional mastery, and guiding them through an audio meditation that helps them regulate their nervous system. And it's like a 30-minute practice. I recently just did it, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so excited about it. Where it's like trusting the universe, trusting your higher self, surrendering completely, and literally, in terms of the science world, tapping into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your relaxation system. And if you do it for 30 days, it is so life changing. I've been doing it for 30 days
Mm.
after recording it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so
It's so
good.
good.
Oh,
I
I
love it. So
created it.
I'll put that link in the show notes.
Yes, yes, yes,
So
yes, yes. But I want
consciouslyliving.co/regulate.
regulate. Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. And I will send it to you. I'll send you the info. But I really would like everybody on this planet to just know that with your breath, you have the power to shift your emotional state as and
Yes.
when, how you want it.
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So your consciouslyliving.co is the website. And where are you on social media?
On Instagram mostly, and I have a Facebook group too. But on Instagram, my link tree has all my stuff, and my Instagram handle is at Holistic Anxiety Coach.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing. So my last question is there one thing you did or did not do that has brought you to your yes-filled life?
Oh gosh, yes, 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 yes. I have done, and I'm like all about adventure. I love traveling. For some reason, traveling is my thing, and now I've created, like, I live my life based on some of the things that I talked about. That is like fully yes filled, and when it's not, it gets to be not, but it's mostly 80% yes filled all the time. Like but it started when I was in 2008, when I was recovering and just literally started waking up to life. And my grandpa had recently passed away, and I was in the US at the time, and I was traveling to India, to be with my family. My family's from India, and I grew up there. And there was a period, like, I had a major wait, like a transit in Egypt. And Egypt was one of the countries that I always wanted to travel to. So I was like, you know what? I have a 12-hour layover. Why don't I just get a transit visa and just go? And it was one of the best. Like, and again, like, I was never used to doing things on my own. I always needed people. I was very ex-codependent also in that time, where I was used to being on my own. But that was like my first step to just saying yes to myself, yes to starting to do things, enjoying my company, loving my life, loving myself, and just exploring who I was. And it just felt so good to start that experience, even though I was going for something that was really difficult. But it was still, like, for me, it was saying yes to myself and yes to what my life means to me. And then that journey has just allowed me to expand into creating a life now to how I want to live, how I want to show up. And thankfully, the way I operate, I manifested a husband who also fits in that puzzle. So
Hmm.
it feels nice. It feels supportive. It wasn't always like that, but we're finally here, and it just feels so blessed. I feel blessed to have and create and have the ability to create a life that feels yes filled, because I'm like, then otherwise, what's the purpose of living, right? I don't want to be just living. I've lived a lot of my life. Now I feel alive, and yes to it.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for being here, Gunj.
Yes,
So please go
absolutely.
give Gunjani a follow and check out that free gift because it'll literally change your life.
Thank you. It is truly an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I told you she was incredible. She is amazing. Here are the takeaways. Number one, embracing change. Gunjani's personal experience with postpartum anxiety and major life changes led her to specialize in helping women navigate through life's uncertainties with grace. She reminds us that our brains are wired for familiarity, and any change, even positive, can trigger stress responses. Number two, postpartum anxiety. Gunjani debunked the misconception that postpartum depression or anxiety only occurs immediately after childbirth. She opened up about her struggles and reminded us of the importance of seeking help and addressing our issues. Number three, the power of therapy. Gunjani shared her transformative journey through therapy, exploring modalities like past life regression, energy work, and EMDR. She emphasized the importance of healing and treating trauma and helping individuals manifest the life they desire. It's important to note that therapy, especially talk therapy, is a top down approach, which can cause re traumatization if the trauma is too fresh. Number four, post traumatic growth. Gunjani introduced the concept of post traumatic growth, emphasizing the importance of seeking help promptly after the trauma to set yourself up for growth and prevent the reinforcement of neural pathways associated with the trauma. Which leads us to number five, honoring the body's limits. It's important to recognize our body's limits when it comes to healing and personal growth. Listen to your body and gauge your level of distress. Here's a gentle reminder that it's okay to approach healing with caution. Bottoms up approaches like breath work and somatic work are very supportive in healing processes. Number six, non negotiable habits. Gunjani shared her daily practices, including setting an intention for the day and practicing mudras, a hand gesture that activates certain energy points for the body. She guided us through a practice, emphasizing the importance of self care and setting boundaries. And you know, I love a boundary. Gunjani's mantra, I am powerfully peaceful, is recommended or just suggested as you practice the mudra. And number seven, the gift to the Your Yes Filled Life community. Gunjani generously offered a three-part training with an audio guided meditation called Breathing Your Way to Emotional Freedom and Elevating Yourself to Full Potential. This practice helps regulate the nervous system and can be life change when done consistently for 30 days. Access that at the link in the show notes or by going to consciouslyliving.co/free training. Thank you so much for listening to Your Yes Filled Life. If you loved this episode, would you please consider sharing it with a friend? And if you haven't yet left the podcast a rating or a review, please go do that now. It takes about 30 seconds and it makes such a huge difference for the podcast. My mission is to bring you back to your soul's mission. And the work of the podcast is a way that we can do this by enabling us all to find our yes filled lives. And so the 30 minutes that you spend, excuse me, the 30 seconds that you spend leaving a rating or a review might just be the rating or a review that someone else reads that really needs the work this podcast is doing. Thank you so much for being here. Bye for now. Until next time.